David here with Figboot on Pens. Today I have for you not one, not two, not three, but 4 pens from a company that has been around for over 100 years. But if you're in the US, it's one that you most likely don't know that much about. And that company is Waldmann. What I'm going to do is go over a bit of Waldmann's company history, then I'm going to take a closer look at these 4 pens. And stay tuned because I will be giving one of these pens away, courtesy of luxury brands who recently became the US distributor for Waldmann. Waldmann was founded back in 1918 in the Black Forest region of Germany. At first, the company produced high-end mechanical pencils made from precious metals such as gold and silver. From there, they eventually moved on to also creating fountain pens, again with an emphasis on metals like brass and gold and silver. In 1972, the company began producing one of their most well-known pens, the 2-in-1, which had a push-action ballpoint pen on one end and a fountain pen on the other, which is an interesting concept. And the 2-in-1 is still produced today, but it's 3 different models that I'm going to show you today. I know I said I had 4 pens at the top of this video, and that's because one of these 4 models, for one of them I have both a fountain and a ballpoint. So, in order to take a closer look at these offerings from Waldmann, please join me over here at camera 2. Since I have a number of pens to go over here, the format of this review will be a little bit different than usual. To begin with, each pen arrives in a box similar to this one. The lid actually lifts off. Then there is a little front flap, which is helpful in order to get the actual box out of here. The actual box is embossed with Waldmann on the top, and then it is also engraved in metal here on this little metal piece in front. You open it up, and here is the first pen. This model is actually called the Commander. Underneath here, we actually have, there is a warranty card, there is a polishing cloth, this is real helpful, there's a pack of 6 cartridges, and a little emblem that came on the pen as well. And all of the boxes are similar to this one. And here is the Waldmann Commander. That, as you can see here, it's mainly made from metal. There is some black lacquering on the cap, and the trim is rhodium plated, and the barrel is sterling silver. This pen is rather hefty. It's 69 grams in total, with the barrel itself being 41 grams. I like the design of this clip. It's hinged, which is nice. Now, I'm not quite certain why, but at the very top of this clip, it is engraved with the word metal. Maybe it's a German requirement. Some of Mont Blancs have the word metal stamped on the underside of their clips as well. On the front of the clip is actually the Waldmann logo as well. At the base of the cap, the Waldmann logo is engraved as well. The cap does post, but I wouldn't recommend it for a few reasons. First of all, the cap is significantly heavy and backweights the pen a great deal. Second of all, I'm not very fond of this gap that it leaves right here. And then also, and lastly, with this posting mechanism like this, I'm not fond of the pop that happens when you unpost. Like that. But that's fine, because you're not really posting this pen at all. The Commander comes with a steel nib. This particular one is a fine. Waldmann nibs are manufactured by Bach. The nib on the Commander is a bit on the small side. It's a number 5 size nib. With the overall size of this pen, I would have liked to seen a number 6 on here. And then here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is a slick metal, but I feel that this design helps alleviates the grip slippage. While it's a hefty pen, I do like the weight of it. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges, and a converter is not included with any of the pens. And I was having some challenges finding one that would actually fit. I have a few different styles of international converters. and neither of them would fit. The one here with this, the one that has the indentation here was coming the closest to fitting, but the indentation here needs to be a little bit longer. So if you have an international converter with a longer indentation, then it might be able to actually fit in here. I found that it fit in here, but then it wasn't as necessarily as secure, and you couldn't get the cap back on, or the barrel back on the section, because you couldn't screw it down all the way. We'll talk price at the end of this video, but overall, I like the looks of the Commander, and I feel it feels substantial. Okay, on to the second pen, which is called the Extra Vienna. Now, extra is spelled X-E-T-R-A. And this pen is thinner and lighter than the Commander. The Extra Vienna comes in at 40 grams with the cap and just 21 grams for the barrel. This pen has a lacquered barrel, and the majority of the cap is solid sterling silver. And it contains this exquisite pattern on the cap called Vienna hand engraving. This is the distinguishing feature of this pen. All of this engraving is done by hand, and I care for the looks of it a great deal. The edges of the engraving are not sharp at all. The cap is smooth to the touch. While the patterns on each of the pens will be somewhat similar, due to the handcrafted nature of this process, each of these pens will be a uniquely crafted piece of art. The Extra has the same clip as the Commander, and all of the trim is rhodium plated. The cap twists off. It does push to post. It does push a bit further down than the Commander, alleviating that gap. And while this metal cap does backweight the pen a little bit, with this pen, I like to fight through that because I feel it just looks so much better with the cap than without it. With the cap, this pen is a little kind of a little bit on the ordinary side, but the cap really adds to the overall look of the pen. It still pops though. So not a fan of the popping. If I'm in a business meeting, I don't need my pen to draw attention to itself with a loud pop. The nib is smaller than on the Commander. I believe this is a number 4 size nib. The section is thin and essentially straight. And I wish there was a slight flare on the end here because I find it to be a little bit slick. I believe the Extra is a cartridge-only pen. I could not get any of my standard international converters to work. They would fit into the section, but they would not fit into the barrel. There might be some out there that actually do work, but not ones that I could find. Overall, the Extra Vienna is a little thin for my personal taste, but I really care for the engraving. I feel it's unique and really looks great. I think it's beautiful. Okay, on to the third and fourth pens, which are the last ones that I have for you today, and they are called the Concord. The Concord is made from solid sterling silver with rhodium plated trim. Coming in at 30 grams overall and 16 grams for the barrel, it's lighter than the other two. There is a grid pattern stamped on the cap and the barrel. The clip design is different than on the Commander and the Extra, but it still functions well. There is actually a rectangular portion here on the cap that you can see that's lacking the grid pattern. This is an area where, if you so choose, you could have the pen engraved. The cap does post, and it does post securely and is light enough to that I have no issues with the weight or the balance. I will say, though, the edge of this cap here is rather sharp, so it's a bit uncomfortable if that happens to rub up against this portion of your hand right here. It has the same number 4 size nib as the Extra Vienna. This section is actually lacquered rather than metal. It's a resin, and even though it's thin and straight, I don't have any issues maintaining a grip on this pen. I'd venture to say that this pen is also converter only as well. I could only get a cartridge to fit in here, but who knows? There might be one out there that works. Maybe there's a Kaweco one that works. I do find this pen to have more of a kind of a classic metal pen look, and it's nice. And I mentioned that there's another one of those, and that's because I also have a ballpoint version of this pen, and this is what the ballpoint version looks like. Now, I'll provide details in a little bit, but I will be giving this Concord away courtesy of luxury brands. I'll even give you a choice. You can either have the fountain pen or the ballpoint, whichever best suits your needs. As far as nib options on all of these pens, they are all available in fine, medium, and broad with the steel nib, and each does have the option to add a gold nib for an additional cost. In regard to overall cost, that I believe that the Commander sells for the range of about $270. The Extra Vienna sells for $340, and the Concord is around the $175 range. So let's take a look at some size comparisons. This is what these pens look like in regard to a Pilot Metro. And then here it is with a Lamy 2000. And then finally, here it is with a Pilot 823. Okay, let's take a look at some writing examples, and to do so, we'll zoom in just a little bit here. To begin with, we have the Waldmann Commander, and this is a fine steel nib. All of the ink that I'm using for these is the cartridges that came with the pen. So there's a blue as well as a black. I'm not quite sure if Waldmann makes their own ink or who makes their ink, but it's the cartridges that came with the pen. And then we have the Extra Vienna, and this is a fine nib as well, but it is the smaller of the nibs. You can see the size comparison here, how it's a little bit smaller. And so we have the Waldmann. And this is the Extra, X-E-T-R-A, Vienna. And this is also a fine steel nib. And then finally, we have the medium nib of the Concord. This is a medium nib. There you have it. I find that these nibs perform well. So here we have the Commander, then the Extra Vienna, and then the Concord. I'm not typically a fan of shiny all-metal pens. There's nothing wrong with them, they're just not my thing. I will say that the sterling silver material on each of these pens is not as much of a fingerprint magnet as the rhodium-plated portions are. And I'm very fond of the engraving that is on this Extra Vienna model. While Waldmann pens are available at a large number of retailers outside of the US, you're going to begin seeing more of these Waldmann models in various US retailers now that they have US distribution. So you'll be seeing more about these pens from retailers who begin carrying them. If you would care to win this Concord model, either in fountain or in ballpoint, your choice, all you need to do is to be a subscriber to this channel and leave a comment below. If you are a Patreon supporter, I greatly appreciate your support. You can alternately leave your comment there if you'd like. In regard to a comment topic, why don't you let me know what your favorite metal pen is? Lately, I've experienced some challenges with contests, so I'm going to do things a little bit different this time. In the past, I've replied to the winner's comment and given them a deadline to get back to me, but in increasing numbers, folks have not replied, so I feel that they don't see the notification for the comment reply. I don't think it's folks' fault. I think it's more of a YouTube thing. So what I'm going to do this time is I will make a community post with the username of the winner and announce that as well. There will be details on the contest in the notes below. In the past, I tried to protect the folks' anonymity and only made the posts after I made contact with the winner, and the post was to notify everyone else, but we'll try it this way. Maybe the chances will be greater that the winner will claim their prize. I hate to see someone's prize taken away from them and given to someone else, so we'll see how this goes. So, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at the Waldmann brand, and I think it'll be an interesting addition to the U.S. market. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.